Good morning, everybody. We're back. It's been a while. We own a house now. We've lived here for about 3 months. We've been doing so much, haven't documented any of it. So we're gonna start. We started a process here that we heard a lot of mixed things about, as well as some other things in the house here that we'll document soon. But this one specifically is very gratifying, quite fast. Cleanup is by far the hardest part, and once we kind of go through the process of what you kind of need, what you got to do, and the result you can get, I think you guys will definitely agree it's a worthwhile thing to attempt yourselves, and I got nothing but faith you got it. So here we are, looking at what we kind of got left. We've done this in sections because we do still live in the house. We're kind of renovating as we're working full time, as we're living in it. So we've broken it up into sections to just make it more manageable and not kind of overwhelm ourselves. So what we have left here is just this little area here. But let's talk about step one. The first thing we got to do is clear everything we can out of the area and prep and cover things we can't. So I'm going to get into this real quick, and we're going to make it happen like that. Boom, just like that. The area is prepped, clean, all of our furniture is gone. Things we've covered up that we care about, we did. The ceiling fan we're going to replace, so we didn't put in the effort. But if you love your ceiling fan, if it's a nice one, recommend for sure covering it up. The thing when you scrape this stuff, it's a plaster, and when it's wet, it falls nicely, but once it's dry, it can kind of find itself hardening onto surfaces. Hot water will always take it off, but can create a little more work than you might have anticipated. Just something to be mindful of whenever you're doing this kind of process. Now we're looking at the ceiling. We're looking at our prep space. We're gonna check out the things we need. You need something to step up on. In our case, we're gonna use a ladder, but you can use a chair, a bucket, whatever you feel comfortable enough to stand on that you can reach your ceiling and get a good scrape on. The second thing you're gonna need, a little weed sprayer. These things cost about $19, $20. We spent $30 because we got the fancy Scott one that has the additional tips where you can kind of choose your spray pattern. We prefer the large fan, nice and wide, gets a good even coverage and gets the roof wet. Last thing you're gonna need, a little scraping trowel. Nothing fancy to this, also $10, $20 item. I just gave this a nice sand in the garage. If you sand these things, something you don't want to do is sharpen. It's easy to get carried away with a sander and put a pretty hard edge on these things. All that's gonna do is make it a little more likely you're gonna gouge your roof and have a little more sanding and filling to do at the end of this process. So if you have an old rusty trowel, give it a good sand. Just be mindful that you don't sharpen your edge brutally, otherwise it's gonna gouge and dig real easily. So these are our three things that you will need, and we're gonna begin this process. So we've pumped up our sprayer. We got it on our nice fan setting. You'll see when we spray it, you see the moisture on the roof, right? So it's okay to get wet. You don't want to soak it because mold can form, but getting it wet is not going to do it any harm. So when you do this, you want to make sure, because you can see that it's covering everywhere. So the way I like to do it is kind of similar to cutting the grass. Just nice even lines the whole way down, get a nice even coverage, and getting it nice and wet. Okay guys, so I just soaked my ceiling. I'm now standing on my sturdy ladder. I got my scraping trowel, and all I want to do, try to document this kind of the best I can, is come in on a nice mellow angle. If you're too harsh this way, you might encourage gouging within your roof. So get nice and even and just push right into it. And you can see as we continue with that pass, we get left with, you can see we get left with a nice clean patch of ceiling. Some people have a tendency to kind of go crazy. What this kind of will do is kind of encourage dust. Anytime you're doing this as well, just because I'm on video speaking right now, I haven't put on my mask, but ultimately you do want to wear a dust mask. Soaking it reduces the dust in the ambient air, but the reality is you got 2 lungs for life, and there's a box full of masks in the garage. So pick your poison, but ultimately definitely recommended. All right guys, so once you've scraped your ceiling, you're gonna be ready and immediately excited. The results to get to that point are so fast, so easy, and again, you're gonna be so happy you took the time to do this. Before you go ahead and start painting that thing and making it that final beautiful look, what you wanna do is go over your entire area that you did. Fill, patch any scuffs, scrapes, gouges, whatever it may be. Take the time, fill that stuff, sand it out before you paint. You're gonna be much happier if you take the time, fill that stuff, give the ceiling a gentle sand prior to painting, just to ensure you get this gorgeous, fully flat looking ceiling like we all want. Also, when it comes to painting, always recommended to do the ceiling before you do your walls. Cutting upside down is extremely tricky. I know there's guys out there that might make it look easy, but it's a lot harder to do versus the wall in front of you. So just a tidbit of advice, take it as you will. But again, thank you for watching the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. We're gonna be doing something great with this ugly thing behind me.